Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. In this one, I'm going to be going over three quarterbacks that I think have a great opportunity to break out in the year of 2025. These are players that have all, shown flashes so far in their career, but I think this is going to be the year that they put it together and really give us a really solid season of fantasy production. They're guys that are not necessarily being drafted to be fantastic, but they're guys that I all think have a great opportunity to pretty significantly outperform their ADP. So I like all three of these guys. They're guys that I find myself drafting quite a bit in all the drafts I've been doing so far this summer, and I highly recommend you guys at least give them a look as well. So if there are any quarterbacks that I don't mention here that you want to mention, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm happy to give you guys my opinion on those guys. If there are any disagreements you have, let me know there as well. And then if you haven't seen these videos already, the running back and wide receiver versions of this video are already out, and I'll be going over the tight end version probably later on tomorrow, probably for you guys. So yeah, should be fun, and let's get into it. Starting things off with a personal favorite of mine, I think Jordan Love is pretty severely underdrafted right now, and I really do think he's got a great opportunity to come out here and put up a really fantastic season. He's currently being drafted as the quarterback 17, and we've seen him finish top 5 at the position in fantasy points per game before. He was the quarterback 3 over the first 7 weeks of the season last year. He did that all really without a true number 1 in the wide receiver room. The Packers went out for the first time in like 20 years and spent a first round draft pick on a wide receiver. They also added another wide receiver later in the draft. And I don't necessarily know that Matthew Golden is going to come in and be an immediate superstar. I don't think he's a true alpha in the NFL. I don't evaluate him as like a rock star or anything. I don't think he's going to be he's not going to come in here and be a Jamar Chase or anything like that. But I do think he's going to help open up this offense. He's going to be the best deep threat they have because really they've really wanted Christian Watson to fill that role, and he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I think Matthew Golden can do everything that Christian Watson can do, but at a higher level. So I think you're just going to see a lot better overall production from this wide receiver room. You've still got Jaden Reed. You've still got Romeo Doubs. Montavian Wicks might figure out how to catch football at some point. You've got Tucker Kraft going into year 2 here. He showed a lot of promise last year. There are a lot of pieces to be really excited about in terms of the pass catchers in this offense. And on top of that, Josh Jacobs is a pretty capable pass catcher himself. I think historically speaking, we've seen Matt LaFleur really run a pretty pass-heavy and pass-happy offense. He's been typically an offensive coordinator that likes to throw the football and has typically done so really well. And I think last season, his hand was just sort of forced a little bit by the injuries for Jordan Love. We saw him get injured right near the end of the first game, week 1 of the season, come back, throw the ball a lot for a few weeks, be fantastic, and then he got a hamstring injury as well, or a groin injury in week 7. That's sort of what threw off the rest of the season. They really, from that point forward, you saw Jordan Love's pass attempts drop by about 10 pass attempts per game over the back half of the year. That sort of fell right in line with Josh Jacobs emerging as a really strong workhorse for this offense. And even still, the overall touchdown rate for this offense, it was just far too heavily skewed towards Josh Jacobs. The year before, you had 76% of the touchdowns scored through the air. That's too high. But then last year, it shifted towards about 50. So I think they'll meet somewhere in the middle this year. You're going to see Jordan Love with a lot more touchdown upside. And in this offense, especially in this division, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for a lot of shootouts. You know the Lions, you know the Vikings are going to be able to put up points against this team. The Bears, they sure might be able to. This is going to be a division that the Packers have to play great from the start of the season to win, and I think that division is going to force a lot of high-scoring games. Their defense is okay, but it's not fantastic. It's not a defense that you look at as one of the defenses like the Eagles where you're worried about them maybe just holding opposing teams down so much that you won't need a lot of high-end production. And I think this offense wants to air it out, throw the ball deep. I think they have the personnel to do that. And if things really break right, I think Jordan Love has the potential to go out there and be a 5,000-yard, 40-touchdown passer. That's obviously the high range of outcomes here, but I think 4,030 is certainly within his range of outcomes. I'm almost expecting that this season, and that would make him a fantastic draft selection where he's being picked, and I certainly am going to be targeting quite a bit of him this season. I'm going to dive even deeper this one. I've talked about Bryce Young a little bit so far this offseason, but I really do think that we're going to see a great year from Bryce Young here in 2025. I personally loved what I saw from Bryce Young when he was given the starting job again in 2024. Just really looked like a completely different player. He was having fun again. He was ad-libbing. He looked far more athletic than he even looked beforehand. He was just playing free, and it really looked like the number 1 overall pick, like he was drafted to be. He was the 7th best quarterback in fantasy points per dropback last season. Not a perfect metric, but it's just a good indicator of what to expect in terms of fantasy production when opportunity is given to him. And he did that without any real threat in terms of the wide receiver room. His wide receiver one last year was pretty much Adam Thielen. You had Adam Legette or Xavier Legette. You had Jalen Coker, but you didn't have a true number one by any means in this offense. And drafting Tedrow McMillan early in round one, that gives them a true alpha number one wide receiver. I don't think that McMillan's going to come in and be like a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, but I think he's got like T. Higgins, Mike Evans upside in the NFL. It's kind of a comp that I feel for him. Maybe if things broke right, maybe you get like a Nico Collins sort of year out of him. But like McMillan's going to be a really great wide receiver in the NFL, and that's going to just make Bryce Young's job a lot easier. On top of that, you still have Xavier Legette. You got Jalen Coker, who flashed quite a bit last season. I believe Hunter Renfro's on the roster now. You've still got Adam Thielen. I liked a lot out of what from what I saw from Jatavion Sanders, the rookie tight end last season. There are a lot of sort of sneaky good pieces in this offense. They also added Trevor Etienne, a pretty decent pass catching back in the fourth round. There are actually a decent number of weapons here for Bryce Young to utilize, and I think we all agree that Dave Canales is a fantastic offensive coordinator that certainly gives you just a certain level of comfort that you wouldn't have had if you had a bad coaching staff here. And on top of that, Bryce Young is kind of sneaky athletic as a runner. Definitely got lucky in the touchdown department last season, but we did see him scramble at one of the highest rates in the NFL. He's going to have to do that because his offensive line isn't fantastic, but I think in general you're going to see Bryce Young have to drop back a ton, and part of that is just because this defense is horrendous. And that's not good if you're a Panthers fan, but it's really great if you're a fan of Bryce Young in fantasy this season. Everyone talks about how bad the Bengals were on D last season. The Panthers were actually much worse. They were the worst defense in a lot of statistics. So like the last 20 years last year, they were 32nd in points per game, 32nd in yards per game given up. They were just by far the worst defense in the NFL last year, and there's no reason to really expect them to turn a corner by any sort of significant metric here. Like, there's a lot of turnover in terms of defensive production year to year, but they're not going to just suddenly be a top 10 unit. They're still going to be a bad defense. They're in a division against a bunch of really bad defenses as well. So you might get like a bunch of those like gross shootouts that you see pretty often where you have just two bad teams that can't stop each other. You might get the Panthers in a lot of those games, and I think you're going to see a situation where Bryce Young can go out there and throw for 4,000 yards, throw for 30 touchdowns, add 300 to 400 rushing yards on the ground, and end up being maybe like a top 8 quarterback this season. He's currently being drafted as a quarterback 24. I love that ADP. I've drafted a ton of him in best ball. He's a target for me in Dynasty if you play Dynasty, and I really do think he could be a guy that might just finish as a quarterback one this season. So I like Bryce Young a lot. I'm rooting for him too. It's just fun if he breaks or turns out well. And I honestly think there's going to be a lot of value here in this Panthers offense this season. And last, but certainly not least here, I've kind of got an obvious one, but I just wanted to highlight him. I do think Bo Nix has all the makings of a potential breakout here in 2025. He's finished as quarterback 7 last year and did so with pretty much no true great talent at the skill positions. You had Cortland Sutton really is the only like established piece of this entire offense outside of Bo Nix. This year you've added Pat Bryant, you've added Evan Ingram, you've got RJ Harvey, you've got J.K. Dobbins. Now you've got a legitimate run game, an actually good pass-catching running back in RJ Harvey. Pat Bryant can't really be any worse than what they had before. You've got Marvin Mims going into year 3. Maybe they'll finally realize that he needs to be on the field. Vele going into year 2, Troy Franklin going into year 2, offensive line still looks like it's going to be great, and then you've got Bo Nix going into year 2, where we should expect to see him take a step forward. That gives you just a lot of upside, and typically speaking, we don't see quarterbacks throw a very high touchdown rate in their rookie seasons, but we did see Bo Nix do that last year, and typically that's the easiest thing for quarterbacks to improve on going into year 2. I think adding all these weapons, potentially just getting more comfortable in this offense, that gives you a lot more reason to be optimistic about what Bo Nix can do. And if you really look at his game log last season, they didn't really let him play until week 5 of the season, and he still finished the quarterback 7. That means that there's a little bit more meat on the bone. Even if he doesn't really improve, if he just does what he did over the last 3 quarters of the season, I think you could see a fringe top 5 finish out of him here. And the only real concern for me would be that maybe this offense just doesn't need to do a lot. Like, I think a lot of people are maybe a little bit hesitant because they think that this Broncos defense is going to be so fantastic that the Broncos are going to go out there and win 12, 13 games without having to throw the ball very much. But I just don't really see that. Like, I agree this defense is incredible, but if you take a look at their schedule, there's no reason to think that the Broncos are going to be able to coast to a lot of wins here. You've got all 6 games in their division, obviously 2 against the Chiefs, 2 against the Chargers, and 2 against a pretty sneaky Raiders team this season. So I think all 6 of those games are going to be competitive, potentially high scoring. Then you've got some games against some really good offenses. You've got Cincinnati, Dallas, Philadelphia, Houston, Washington, Green Bay, and Jacksonville. That right there, that is 7 more games on top of your 6 divisional games. So just like from a quick eye test, looking at their schedule, you've got 13 of 17 games this season where the Broncos are going to be playing teams that I think are going to be able to put up points against them. And that makes me just not really worried about Bo Nix needing to play. Like, this isn't a team that's going to go out there and win by 30 points and just lean on their running game. I like J.K. Dobbins, I like R.J. Harvey, but neither one of those guys are just going to go out there and really force the other team's hand. Like, they're not going to be guys that are just going to stuff the ball down your throat. That's not how this offense is built. Even when Sean Payton has had really dominant teams, he's typically just sort of preferred to operate just with like short area passing. I think you're going to see a lot of receptions to the running backs, a lot of short area targets to Evan Ingram, and that'll happen even when this team is winning. So I think Bo Nix is going to be super necessary to this offense. I think he's a good player, and he's honestly sneaky athletic. They've improved the skill position players, and as a rookie last season, he finished as the quarterback 7. I think you got a shot at a top 5 year out of this guy, and I really do think he's going to be a pretty good player in the NFL. So he needs to be paid attention to. I think of the guys in like the tier he's being drafted in, you've got like him, Baker, and Kyler. I think he's probably my favorite pick of the 3. He and Kyler are really close, but I think there's a lot of upside there, and I just don't think people are as optimistic as they should be because I think Jaden Daniels sort of stole the spotlight, and I think, again, people are worried about how good this defense is going to be, but like I said, that schedule is going to force their hand. I think Bo Nix is going to have a fantastic season this year. So that'll do it for the breakout quarterbacks. Up next, I'm going to be going over 3 tight ends that I think could break out here in 2025. So stay tuned for that video. Like I said earlier, if you haven't already, I highly recommend you guys go watch the breakout wide receiver and the breakout running back videos. And if you want to make sure you don't miss more content, there's going to be at least 3 videos a week. I keep saying 3 videos a week, but honestly, we've got so much content to put out. There's probably going to be 4 or 5, maybe even 6 videos some weeks. So it could be a lot of stuff to cover over the next couple of months here. We're late July. We're getting really close to fantasy football draft season. Make sure you subscribe to the channel that way you don't miss any of that. Click the bell so you get notifications as the videos come out. And then if you want to make sure that you just help me out, just give the video a thumbs up. It helps me out. And if you made it this far in the video, I hope this video helped you out as well. So it's been a lot of fun. And if you have any comments, let me know in the comments below. Love interacting with you guys there. And I'll catch you with the next one, guys. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.